Welcome to Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from remodeling contractor Danny Lipford and the home improvement pros from Today's Homeowner magazine.
Hello and welcome to the show this week. Now, no matter what part of the country you live in or what your home is made of, pest control plays a major part in protecting your investment. Now, this week we'll look at a termite baiting system that'll protect your home from those damage-causing termites. Also, we'll show you how to keep the birds and squirrels in the trees instead of in your attic, and we'll show you how to run off those roaches and spiders that you may have around your home. Now, this isn't a pretty subject, but one that you're going to encounter if you're a homeowner. Stay with us. Termites cause a tremendous amount of damage to homes every year. Locating and exterminating these pests is a job best left to the professional. Now, many homeowners are concerned about the chemicals used to control termites and what effect, if any, it may have on their families and the environment. Now, there's a relatively new method of controlling termites called a baiting system. And Joey Harris, who is a pest control specialist, is in the process of monitoring a baiting system on this home. Well, Joey, I guess you really have a challenge keeping termites out of a home.
We really do, Danny, and not only here, termites are a nationwide problem. In fact, 49 of 50 states are infested with termites, the exception being Alaska, and they really represent a $2 billion a year problem to homeowners across the country.
Well, now, I know traditionally in building homes or additions, you pre-treat with a chemical prior to pouring the concrete, and then later you just do regular, say, yearly inspections to make sure everything's working right. Is that still a viable way of protecting a home?
It's still a viable way, and there are homes that are still treated with that method, but technology has changed, and I believe we've come another step up the ladder technology-wise with the baiting systems that we have now.
Now, the baiting system, I know that you were checking one here as far as one of the stations. We have another one right up in here. Now, you know, kind of take our viewers through how exactly does that work. Obviously, these are installed at some point, and what takes place after that?
Okay, well, this is the Centricon system, and there are 3 steps in eliminating termites with this baiting program. The first step has to do with the monitoring, and in that step, the goal is to identify a termite infestation that's occurring around or inside the home.
Okay.
The second step has to do with the baiting process, and once that colony has been identified, the goal there is to certainly eliminate it through the application of the bait. And then the third step is the continued monitoring to protect the home from future termite attack.
Okay, now what's involved in the monitoring? How often is that done, and what exactly takes place when you're actually doing a monitoring of a home?
Well, you can see a station that's here installed in the ground, and within that station there are monitoring devices, and each quarter a technician comes by and they actually open the station, they look at the monitoring device, and they can actually see the presence of termites in the device itself.
Okay, all right, I see a single unit here, but what's going on up here? There's a whole group of them together here.
We've actually found termites in this area here, and we've installed additional stations in order to recruit more termites to this area. The more termites we can have here, the more likely we'll be able to introduce the bait and then to reach colony elimination quicker. In fact, let's open this one up and see if we can see what's going on there.
Now, you have this in such a way that would really prevent any children from getting into this, I guess.
Well, that's right. You can see the tool I'm using here is specially designed to open these locking caps. This is a bait tube, and termites have been here.
So in checking these, no gloves are needed or anything then? It's that safe?
It's very safe. It has a very limited impact on the environment. And I don't see any in that tube right there. Let's open another.
Sure. Now, what about areas around the home? Of course, these would be very easy to install in dirt, but what about situations where you have a driveway or a patio? Is that something that you're having to actually drill down through?
It depends on the amount of area that's covered by the concrete. Many times the stations can be installed around the soil surrounding the concrete or the patio or the porch or driveway. If it's a larger expanse, though, we can actually core through the concrete and install the station below the concrete and put a cap seal over the top of that.
Okay, now this looks a little different than what we saw a minute ago.
This is actually the monitoring device, and you can see where termites have been there, some of the galleries, but it's kind of cold this morning, and I believe they've gone a little bit deeper into the ground.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, now what about cost on this? I know it probably would vary from home to home, but what are you looking at on a basic home? I guess this is around a 2,000 square foot home. Just what's a range that someone would be looking at?
Well, it's hard to say. It depends on what's done with the system, how it's installed, and it's usually based on the linear footage. It is the only termite treatment that a home will need. It's something that does not have to be repeated. The installation doesn't have to be repeated again in 5 years or 7 years or 10 years. And I would really just recommend that the homeowner contact an authorized operator for the Centricon system and just obtain a free estimate.
Okay, good. Well, I can see where it would make a big difference, and it's very important that something like this be left to the professionals, because the monitoring and knowing how to administer any of the chemicals, very important that it'll be handled by someone like yourself. And stay with us. When we come back after the simple solutions, we'll look at a number of other pests that may be causing damage to your home.
Get ready to review your Fix-It list as Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine repair and maintenance editor Joe Truini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by Dodge.
Well, we're finishing up just in time, aren't we, Joe?
Looks like rain coming.
You know, a tool belt like this is perfect for almost any home improvement project because you're able to keep all your nails, your screws, all of your tools right at your fingertips, but this kind can get pretty heavy, but that kind always slip down on me.
Well, the nice thing about a nail apron is it is lightweight, but because it has a thin string, it has a tendency to slide down. Now, a belt like that, because it's got nice and wide, it offers a lot of support. But all you need to do when you put this on is when you're tying it in the back, loop it through your belt loop. And all that does, all you have to do is tie it through one belt loop, and that keeps it from sliding down. Now, even when it's loaded with tools and 3 or 4 pounds of nails, it won't fall down all the way.
Now, but what about your hammer holster? That's something that always flopped around, and it would slip around behind me, and I couldn't even reach my hammer.
Right. Especially climbing up and down ladders, it has a tendency to move. Well, the simple idea here is, I'll show you, I'll take this off to show you, but when you put the string through the hammer holster, loop it around and pull it through a second time. And then that prevents the holster from sliding around, but what I like even better about it is when you take it off, it doesn't just fall off and hit the ground.
Joe, you always have some great tips like that, but one that you shared with me about a year ago is how I'm able to find my razor knife now. You know, the tool belts always have a place for the razor knife, but
they're also so thin and deep that you can't pull them out.
Right, and they'll get jammed down in there and you can't really grab it. But with a little key tag like that, I'm able to reach back without even looking and grabbing that. That's really a good tip.
Well, I'm glad you've been paying attention, Danny.
Now, there's another pest that many homeowners will confuse with termites. That's the carpenter ant. Now, carpenter ant is black in color and can get as large as 1 inch, whereas a termite is as small as a grain of rice and is white in color. Now, there's a number of things that you can do around your home that'll discourage both termites and carpenter ants from entering your home. They include removing any firewood, lumber, or tree stumps from around your home. Also, eliminate any standing water under your home or around the perimeter. Also, trim any shrubs or bushes away from your foundation. And seal any cracks that you may find around the foundation. And it's a good idea to clean the gutters and the downspouts. Now that we're talking about carpenters, carpenter bees are yet another pest that love to bore into exterior wood, particularly if you have a cedar home like this one. Now, what they'll do is bore half-inch perfectly round holes in the soffit, the fascia, and particularly around the handrails. Now, one way to control this pest is to use an insecticide and spray all of the affected area. Wait 24 hours, then come back with wood putty or wood dowels and plug the holes. Another way is when you're painting or staining, use an insecticide additive to add to your paint or stain. Now, let's talk about some bigger pests that really love to find their way into your attic space. I'm talking about squirrels and birds. Let's visit an attic that has one of these uninvited guests. Now, this homeowner's uninvited guest is a squirrel, and they're using the most recommended method to rid their home of that pest, and that's using a small animal trap. Now, if you'll follow the fireplace piping right on up to the top, you'll see some of the blown insulation and a few of the branches and twigs the squirrels use to create a fairly nice little penthouse for himself. Now, squirrels, birds, and even mice can find their way in your attic through a variety of different ways. They include your gable vents, any hole that might be around the gable vents, areas around your chimney, also where pipes go up through your soffit areas or overhangs of your house, as well as any other little crack they can possibly find, they'll find a way in the attic. Now, what we found on this house is the squirrel had actually worked real hard on an attic exhaust fan, all of the screening around that vent to find a way into the attic. Not only was he able to kind of come and go as he pleased, he was also able to bring in all of the materials and branches and twigs he needed to construct his penthouse. Now, the method here and what we're recommending to these homeowners is to use some screening, either window screen or a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch hardware cloth to go around the outside of that exhaust fan to prevent the squirrel from chewing back through. Now, this or metal flashing can be used in most cases to seal up any of these cracks you may have in the home. Now, as I said, this is true for squirrels, birds, mice, or almost any rodent that can find its way in. Another idea is make sure you trim the trees and branches back from around the house that may be resting on the roof itself. This is a great little highway for those squirrels to find their way right into the attic. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
It's time to check out this week's best new product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Paul Spring. Brought to you by the Home Depot.
You know, Danny, in the last few years, bath faucets like this have become pretty easy to install on a vanity with the new systems they have. But when it gets down to single piece, wide spreads like this, it can be a nightmare still.
It can really be a nightmare if you're the one like me that has to get under the vanity and disconnect and reconnect these faucets. Also, these are a little difficult to get real nice and level.
Yeah, they can be, but there's good news for not only level, but the bumps you get on top of your head being under the sink. With this new toggle system from Price Pfister, you can do all the mounting from the top. Here's how it works. You begin by inserting the spout assembly into that center hole with a toggle-like device in the upright position. Then tighten the hex screw on top with a hex wrench provided. Now, the valve bodies work similarly, except you use an adjustable wrench, again from the top, instead of the hex wrench. Now you're ready to install the trim. It should fit perfectly in place without any additional adjustments from the top or the bottom. This is because of those unique toggle-like devices from underneath that provide self-leveling. Finally, you'll need to go underneath the sink to connect the water supply. The unique feature here is a pre-assembled T that snaps on to connect the valves and the spout. So the only thing left to do is finish off the water supply.
Well, if that's all I have to do under the vanity, well, I'm happy. Now, this is the kind of bug that most homeowners think about when you say the word pest. The roach is the one that can really make people's skin crawl more than anything else. Now, you know, they can enter your home through a crack as small as a 1/16 of an inch. So it's important to check all of your windows and doors, particularly your weather stripping and your door sweeps, to make sure they're as tight as they can be. Also, just like we spoke about with termites and carpenter ants, check around the perimeter of your home for any potential crack that they can enter into your home. Now, if you have a fairly sizable crack, consider using the expandable foam. It's available in latex, which makes the cleanup a lot easier, but it's very effective to inject into these cracks. It expands and will seal off that entryway into your home. But probably the best way to protect your home from any type of insect getting into the home is a regular application of insecticide. Now, you can call an exterminator to come out 3 to 4 times a year and apply the insecticide, or you can do it yourself. Now, depending on how large of an area you need to treat around your home, you can buy a variety of different sizes of insecticide. Now, this one's regular spray cans, probably best used on just spot applications in and out of the home. This one, you can hook to a garden hose and spray a large part of your yard all the way around the exterior of the home. This one, with a little sprayer on it, you're able to use either interior or exterior, pretty effective in covering a fairly large area. Of course, you got to read the instructions when you buy any of these products, because not only will it tell you how to use these products safely, it'll also tell you what it's effective in eliminating. Now, this particular one can take care of cockroaches, palmetto bugs, ants, crickets, water bugs, silverfish, spiders, and several other insects. So many of these products are very versatile in eliminating a number of pests around the home, but you got to use them in the right place. On the exterior, you want to concentrate around windows and doors, particularly the bottom area of your doorways. Also light fixtures out on the outside wall or a porch light. Many times the light in these fixtures will draw the insects to the fixture and then they'll enter the home. Now, if you have any pets around the house, you may have encountered a few problems with fleas. Well, that treatment starts on the exterior with using something like this that you can really spray the yard area, also maybe the bedding where the dog sleeps or the cat, and in the doghouse as well. But again, read the instructions because you'll want to make sure these areas are completely dry before the dog or any of the children get out in the yard. Now, outside we've talked about some of the things you need to consider there. Inside, you really need to concentrate on special areas where these bugs like to congregate. Now, one of the main areas to concentrate your efforts on the interior of the home is in the kitchen area, because in this room is everything the insects need to really flourish. First of all, they like the heat that's generated by the stove area and the darkness that's created behind the refrigerator. Also, they like moisture, so you have the sink, you have the dishwasher, and a few food crumbs here and there will take care of their nutritional needs. So when you're spraying in this area, you'll want to spray next to the refrigerator and, of course, along the baseboard, behind the refrigerator. But you really have to be careful, it's particularly in a kitchen area, not to spray on the countertops. If you do, make sure you wipe everything off real well. Also, clean out under your sink and spray it well, and take your access panel off the bottom of your dishwasher and spray under there. And don't forget about your bathrooms, another very critical area to spray around the perimeter of the bathroom and anywhere any of the plumbing pipes may be protruding through the walls. And don't forget about your laundry room. That's also a place that insects really like to congregate. Now stay with us. Next, let's go back outside for Around the Yard.
Now let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Barbara Katz.
Well, I know enough about ferns to know that they really love water, and the soaker hose, is that the best way to go, or what about a regular irrigation system?
Well, you got a couple different ways to take care of your plants, particularly, as you said, ferns. Overhead watering systems are very good. They give a lot of water very quickly, but they do get the foliage wet. And sometimes you've got perennials which just don't like that. They'll get diseased. Something like the soaker hose is great because it just oozes along the whole length of the hose, and it lets that water out right at the root system, and that's great.
But should you leave it laying on top of the ground like this? I mean, it'd look a lot better if it kind of disappeared.
Yeah,
there.
I think it's a little bit ugly. So I would cover it with some mulch, but the main thing to remember about soaker hoses is because they're oozing the whole length of the hose, you got to realize it's not very durable. So you have to maintain a little bit, and they tend to last for a year, maybe two, but they can get nicked very easily. And you just got to stay on top of them.
Now, what about using a timer on this? You know, other irrigation systems have timers. Can you put some type of timer on this?
I think it's a great idea. Again, it's not a precise science. So just run it for a while, go and check different areas, put your finger in the soil and see if it's damp. And if you find some dry spots, well, you might just have to do some supplemental watering or run it for a little longer.
Okay. Well, I can tell these ferns are really liking the soaker hose. Now, I know talking about pests is not the prettiest subject, and maybe we've taken a slight departure from what we normally follow here on the show, but I hope we've been able to give you some good information that you can use as a homeowner, because I'm sure you'll encounter some of the same pests that we encountered this week. And remember, read and follow those instructions on the insecticides. I'm Danny Lipford, and we'll see you next week here on Today's Homeowner.